Okay, I'm back. I have all my lighting bases. You can see some of them stacked up here in front of me. There's some over there that I'm getting ready to coat. Wood's great and looks good and all, but sometimes it just doesn't look good until you put oil on it, which this has oil on it now, and you coat it with something. Some kind of urethane coating is always nice. Now, they have all different kinds of wood coatings that you can use, and it gets pretty complicated and difficult when you go to the lumber yard or the hardware store to get yourself some coatings. Now, I'm going to give you the two I use for virtually everything I do. My most popular and my favorite coating is going to be spar urethane, water-based. Now, the spar, if you look it up, it's going to tell you that that has natural characteristics. It's not like a synthetic kind of coating as much as other coatings can be. And the water base definitely means it's low on chems, which is really good, especially when you're doing lighting. You're not going to want an oil-based coating necessarily, at least on the bottom side where the electrical is going to be. Out here, it's okay, and I do use that. If I have a customer that wants a really glossy finish, sometimes the only way you can go is oil-based urethanes. And that leads me to this. Varathane has oil base. I like it. Now, this isn't spar. This is just polyurethane, whereas this is urethane. Poly, probably meaning the more synthetic chemical background. But if you go oil-based, you can achieve a real nice sheen, a real nice gloss. You do pick up more durability. There's a little less durability when you're coating something that's water-based. But if you can, lighting. Lighting is wood lighting. It's going on a ceiling. You're not walking on it. You're not eating on it. You're not doing anything on it that's going to be extremely volatile. So that's good. Let's talk about coating barnwoods. This is why I like water-based, and this is why I like to use a coating on barnwoods. Now, barnwood's been on a barn here in Indiana normally, sometimes up to and over 100 years. That's great, but let's remember, barnwood's extremely porous. It is going to soak up so much coatings, it's ridiculous. Also, lighter barnwoods, when it gets hit by urethane, it gets darker. Darker gets dark, real dark. It sucks it in, and it kind of stays that way. I'll show you. I'm going to coat all my barnwood bases now first, and then I'll coat my live edge. But right there, you can see how it got dark really quick. But I'll just take one of these. I just use cheap chip brushes for this because there isn't going to be like fine lines of paint, so you don't need a real expensive brush. So I recommend using just a cheap brush. And then when you get to the live edge hardwood finishes, I apply it with the chip brush, just this cheap brush, but then I use a little more expensive foam brush to smooth it out, and it smooths it out real nice. I'll show you that though. Fixture is based around this wood. Now in this case, this is going to be a single pendant wood base, but it's also what would be called a canopy. This covers up the electrical. You can look up there, you'll see the rustic wood, and when this dries, this will look really nice. It'll have just a little bit of a coating on it, nothing too shiny, because most people, when they want barnwood or rustic, they don't want it to have a real super gloss. Plus, to be honest, the oil-based gloss finishing coatings do not really translate well on the barnwood. This water-based is the best. So if you have a project at your home where you're using barnwood, it's always nice to have an air gun, not blowing in your face, but get all the crumbs off of here. Now this is a larger base, and this is going to have 6 pendants coming from it. Look at that nice piece of barnwood. When it's all coated and dried, it looks fresh. Trust me. You got any kind of shot. Go ahead, airline. Nice and thick. Now this stuff's not cheap. It's about right now $60 a gallon. That and spray paint really went up last year because of petroleum based. I'm assuming, even though this isn't, this is water based. But a lot of the paint coatings at the hardware store seemed to really go through the roof last year. Right now, I was just at Lowe's just a minute ago, getting supplies, and a can of spray paint that I typically use, used to be under $5, is over $10. It's $10 and change right now. I've talked about this before, and to me, for a product that you haven't heard anything about on the news or in general, you know, it hasn't like, oh, there's a worldwide spray paint shortage. You haven't heard anything about it, obviously, but yet the price of the product has doubled. And that's from brand to brand too. It's not just like one brand decided they're going to raise their price. They all are like, just to get an average normal can of spray paint that's like black, white, or red, normal colors, you're going to spend over $5, somewhere around $7 a can. And the can of spray paint I was talking about that's over $10 is like a hammered copper. It's like a metallic style spray paint that I'll spray paint metal light fixtures with, and it looks really nice. It gives it a metal finish. So this, when it goes on like a milky white, and then it dries clear. And there's that. That wood base is ready to dry. I've got a lot. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 live edge bases I've got to coat. But I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or so Barnwood bases. I do a lot of Barnwood vanity lights. This will have pipe fittings coming out the center, and then 2 on each side here. And this is a 5-light vanity light with pipe fittings in Barnwood. It's that look that they're trying to get in their cabin or their lake house, or shoot, their apartment in New Jersey. And they said, you know what, we want our apartment in New Jersey to look like a cabin or a lake house or a beach house. They'll come to my site and I'll offer them lighting solutions that fit any space, any living space. But see the lightness here and then the darkness there? It's really hard to maintain the original colors and shades of Barnwood when you do coat it. That's the thing. And until you know and you've coated all the different types of Barnwood, you'll never really know what direction that finish on that Barnwood's going to go when you coat it. That's kind of like the nice thing about what I do is I do this every week, do this every day, but I coat lights every week, all different kinds of Barnwood, and I could look at the Barnwood and I can tell you, oh, that's not going to look good when they coat it. It's not going to at least look the way they want it to look. Here's another vanity light. I'll drill holes and I'll attach a UL rated electrical wiring harness that'll have bulb sockets. This one will have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then just bulbs will screw in right into the face. And this has little individual pieces of Barnwood that are all different with different character. It's called the patchwork. I like this one. Just straight flat Barnwood on this, and I call that the Buffalo Creek. I name all or most of my lights either to kind of go with the style of the light, or it's got a name like the Buffalo Creek. Now, the Buffalo Creek is a creek where I grew up, and I grew up on the Ohio River, And the Ohio River has all these tributaries, these smaller creeks and streams that run into it. Buffalo Creek's the one that ran through my hometown. So I went out to Buffalo Creek quite a bit. You go up in the mountains, not really mountains, big hills, huge hills. You come out, because I live down in the valley, the river valley. So then you would go out into the hills and the mountains. You drive out all the way up, and there's 2 colleges up there from my hometown, Bethany College and West Liberty State College. I think it's State University now. My wife graduated from there. So they're real good with teaching and dental hygiene. I had a cousin, and she is a dental hygienist, and she went to school there to be a dental hygienist. And then my wife went to school there specifically to be a teacher, West Liberty University. But they're up in the top of a mountain. And I'm using the term mountain lightly because I was just in Colorado last summer, and those are mountains. West Virginia does not have Rocky Mountains, that's for sure. Now, we got big, huge hills that we call mountains. Everybody calls them mountains, but they're not really mountains. I used to think, when I was younger, I'd be like, we're mountain folk, mountain boys, mountain kids, this, that. And my dad would be like, these aren't mountains. These are just hills. Yeah, he was one of those parents that just loved to just shoot your dreams down one way or another. We don't fight, we just don't talk. He lives in West Virginia. I live in Indiana. He and I are very different. We're a lot alike, but very, very, very different. My dad was a big businessman, salesman, businessman, sales manager, vice president of sales for pharmaceuticals, of all things. And which makes more sense to me now because I don't trust pharmaceutical companies one bit. But he went that direction, and I went more a direction that was more industrial commercial. Actually, supplies and sales, and I got into that at the end before I got into what I do now. And we're just kind of different guys, and we just don't get along. I feel I carry a lot of demands on family, friends and family, and those demands require respect and principles and respect. So if somebody doesn't quite have the same principles as me or similar principles, a lot of times that will lead into disrespect one way or another, because people without certain principles won't meet your standard of principles. What you feel is a level of respect or disrespect when somebody disregards your principles. Me, I think I take it too serious. I take those things too serious, and I get too angry with people, probably angrier than I should, resulting in bad relationships with, say, a relationship gone bad with family or friends. A lot of times is going to be ultimately my fault. I'll own that fault because I keep high standards. I keep high standards on myself and how I view friendship and family, and I expect the same friends and family to keep into consideration those same standards and kind of have those standards. And if they don't, I get upset and I'll go away. I'll go away. I won't participate in the family or the friendships that don't take that serious. And that's my fault. I mean, that's on me. I don't want to call it a fault. I don't call it a fault at all. I'm fine with it. I'm actually perfectly okay with it, if not glad, because if you don't have your own standards and you don't have your own moral, your own ethics, your own principles, you don't have anything. You don't. You don't have the structure required to, I believe, live a fruitful, good, wholesome life. Okay, I'm going to coat my first base with the water-based, I think this is semi-gloss, water-based spar urethane. Now, I'll slop it on. I'll slop on my first coat, get it up on all the parts of the board, Doesn't matter how neat you put this coat on. You just want to be, you know, you don't want stuff going everywhere, but you definitely want to get everything coated really good for the most part. Just like this. And then the magic happens. If you don't do what I'm going to do after I do this, you'll see a notice. If I just left it like this to dry, you will see these runs that you can see here with this milky residue. The magic. If you're doing anything smooth, Barnwood's not smooth, so you don't have to use this. It doesn't work anyways. This, it's just like if you've ever done drywall. They say less is more. So just one pass if you can. It's hard to just do one pass. I'll be the first to say I want to just keep going back and forth. But one pass and it'll be the smoothest finish you'll want or need from this application. This will look like glass when it dries. It'll at least look 100 times better than if I didn't use it. Let's do this big one right here. So if you saw my video the other day, you saw me putting this together and I was splicing the boards together. This is what it looks like now after splicing the boards and putting the frame on that I told you I was going to put on there. I think it looks pretty good. I'm going to wipe it down a little bit before I go any further. But here it's got the frame on the back. It's ready to rock. Wipe this down real quick. So another tip I'd like to share that if you notice, I think a lot of people, when they have tips to share and they have experience, that doesn't mean that they are perfect about using those tips themselves. I'm guilty all the time of rushing, going too fast, not taking your time. Two things happens. The most important thing is the quality of your project definitely declines if you rush. Just nature of the beast. But you know what is right up there with it? Is if you don't take your time, you also don't get to enjoy the actual piece of doing certain projects. If you don't take your time, you don't get to fully appreciate and enjoy just how nice it is to be a craftsman, to work with your hands. Even if you're not great at it, you're still a craftsman, you're still trying.